I shall be spending the whole of September and the first week of October in North America, speaking in 10 different cities, from Dallas to Vancouver. I am 83 years old, and travel is more irksome than it was. The maxim, "quit while you're ahead," has recently received a welcome boost, and I anticipate that this will be my last American tour, my swansong, my final bow. There'll be a Q&A at every event, and I'll be signing any or all of my 19 books, including the Genetic Book of the Dead, which will be just published. This will probably be your last opportunity to tell me how profoundly you disagree with everything I've written and said, or the reverse if that is the case. Either way, I look forward to seeing you.
Hello, I'm Richard Dawkins.
Hey, nice to meet you. Welcome. I'm Klaus Rodgaard. Klaus Rodgaard.
Klaus?
Yeah.
Yes. Wow, what a lovely bright place you've got.
Yes.
Yeah.
Being a Scandinavian, we like it on the bright side.
Where are you from?
Denmark.
Denmark, right. Well, you're going to show me around?
Yes, definitely.
Good.
So this is our little sperm bank.
Right.
Where, of course, the first part of the sperm bank is, the donor waiting areas.
Right.
If it's busy, it's not too busy today here with the little rain. And they can sit.
Do they just walk in off the street, or do they make appointments?
Oh, they have to make appointments. We don't just take anybody in.
Yeah.
So they have to apply online.
Yes.
And then I talk to them on the phone. We set up their first appointment.
Yes.
And they fill out a contract, and we tell them a little bit about what it's all about, so they know what they are getting into.
Yeah. And you pay them?
Yes.
Can I ask how much?
Around $75 per donation. Okay. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
For maybe 5-10 minutes of work, depending on on the guy. So and then we have down here we have the donor rooms, where they can do their thing, and we try to
suitable pictures on the wall.
Oh, of course, you got to have a little inspirational material to help it along, So they're just the same type of rooms.
Okay, right.
And and then once they've donated, they deliver the sample here in the lab, where we actually use fingerprint to ID them.
Okay.
So we've got to make sure that the guy that donates is the guy who says
Indeed.
Says yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Because there's a lot of safety involved in it.
Yes.
A lot of regulations from the Food and Drug Administration. A lot of regulations from the New York State that we have to follow. So we really have to follow procedures, both to do what the law says, but of course also to be safe, as
What interest has the law in getting the identity right? Why does the law care?
Well, it's because we test the donors continuously for diseases.
Okay, I see.
So we just can't have some guy coming in who had HIV, and then we could potentially pass on the HIV to the mother and the child. So it's a lot about just making sure that they're healthy.
Okay. How long ago did you start this?
Well, the bank here has been in business in the United States since 2001, but our headquarters in Denmark and the whole company has been in business for 20 years.
So in Denmark, it goes back a long way, this kind of thing.
Yes, definitely, yes. Definitely.
And did it start from people getting anonymous donors and move on to choosing their donor?
Yes, in Denmark, in fact, by law, it was you're only allowed to have anonymous donors. Now you can have both in Denmark also, as you can here in the United States.
Right. And when it's anonymous, do they mix all the sperm, or does it still kept separate? Or
no,
what?
it is called separate per donor, because you need to, again, because you're testing the donor for any diseases.
Yeah.
So if you mix it, you wouldn't be able to separate it again. Of course, if one donor showed to have a positive test for hepatitis, for example.
Yes.
So you need to keep it together, to separate per donor.
Now, your female clients, how much choice do they get? Do you give them a list of 100 or 10 or?
Well, they get a lot of choices. We have in Denmark 250 donors in stock, and here we right now have 50, but we will also quickly approach a minimum of 200 donors. That's the goal, and we also think actually that the more choice the better. so people can find a donor that they actually like. And what's happening right now is we're actually franchising the sperm bank. We actually did the first test franchise. So you can actually buy a sperm bank franchise and open a sperm bank anywhere in the world you want to. And we're trying to help that so we can get an even broader variety of donors.
When you say franchise, they use your name, is that what?
Yeah, they use the name, the technology, the sales tools, the stock tools, everything that's involved in running a sperm bank. We'll go there, we'll help train them, and we'll continue to just improve the whole concept for the sperm banks.
Now, why, when it started in Denmark, was it compulsorily anonymous donors?
I think that they at that point thought that was the best to do, both to because there is no connection between the donor and the people using the sperm. So they thought it was best to just keep it.
I was wondering whether it was perhaps the kind of taboo in our society against the idea of positive eugenics.
That could also be part of the reason, but it's so long time ago that decision was made before I was even in the business.
Right.
And since I've been in working in the sperm bank as a manager here the last 5 years, you're really seeing in Denmark more saying that we will allow both. So you allow known donors and anonymous donors, so that the patient will have a choice and the donor has a choice to decide what they want.
And which is the most popular, anonymous or known?
Well, you can't put it that way because there's tremendously more donors wanting to be anonymous. So you don't have the same ratio.
Okay.
So it's more difficult to find known donors. And at the same time, known donors, you just can't allow the same amount of pregnancies per donor, because we can't. Let's just say there was 100 pregnancies for one donor.
Yeah.
Around Christmas time, we would have to get a calling system so you could put them on hold.
Are some of the donors very popular then?
There will always be more popular donors than others. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
I've tried to. What actually happened is we used to have less information about the donors, and some fewer guys that were good at writing about themselves actually were more popular. Then we broadened the services with more baby pictures, staff impressions, and then actually changed it so the better picture we gave the donors, the more we spread out the sales. And actually donors I thought were really good donors that weren't selling, we actually got those people also to understand that these were actually good donors.
Why baby pictures?
Well, why? Because the patient asked for it.
No, but why not adult pictures?
Well, because of the anonymous donors, you couldn't show an adult picture. Whereas a baby picture is a lot more anonymous than an adult.
Yeah, but the
picture.
ones who are not anonymous, the ones who.
Well, those we can do.
Yeah.
We just so far in Denmark, you can see the way sale is handled in Denmark is completely different than in the United States. In Europe, you have very little information about the donor, whereas here you have a lot of information about the donors. So I think if the donor is willing to provide an adult picture, I have no problem in.
I'm misunderstanding something. By anonymous, you mean that you know a lot about them, or the women know a lot about them, everything except their name.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant that it was more or less random. I see.
No,
Okay.
we don't.
So an anonymous donor is one where they know the color of his hair, his eyes, his etc.
They can know a lot about him. They can know whatever food he likes to eat, his shoe size, and all kinds of things, except something that will, of course, reveal his identity.
But are there any women who say, well, just give me something at random?
Very, 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 very rarely.
Okay.
They all, it's a big decision.
Yes.
You can just say, tell me a woman that has walked into a shoe shop and said, just give me whatever you have. That doesn't happen,
No, that's right.
Yeah,
but I mean, I'm interested
anything you buy,
because
you spend time on your
that's
decision.
right, of course. But I mean, we kind of in our society pay lip service to the idea that there's something taboo about eugenic choice, and so you might think that the women might, as it were, go along with that and say, well, I don't approve of eugenics, so I'm going to.
It's America. It's a society of consumption and consumerism. People are used to you go online, you buy products, you ask questions about the products. Yes. It's as normal as anything else they do. They don't look at it that way at all. They look at it. We need something. We'll inquire, make sure we make the best decision that we can make.
Okay. Now, if you look at the statistics for the most popular donors and the least popular donors, how much more popular is the most popular than the least popular? I mean, is 10 times as popular? Or?
Well, we have donors that don't sell.
Okay, so
and then we have some that sells
0.
a lot. Yeah.
And so the maximum choice is you cap it, you limit it because you don't want to have
too many.
Too many.
Well, in fact, what also happens is there's a lot of sperm that doesn't result in babies.
Yes.
So if you look at the size of we sell sperm in 50 different countries, the sperm is spread out of such a huge geographical area that and no man can donate that much sperm. You can only donate it twice a week. So you don't see now that the company is selling worldwide. You don't really see any sort of high concentration of a donor in any specific geographic region.
Right, and it's $75 a go.
Approximately, yeah.
Okay.
Little bit, if you're better, you get a little more. Actually, we actually pay a little bit according to how much they deliver.
Okay. Well, could we go and have a look at some of the procedures?
Yes, definitely. So let's go into the lab. Well, the first thing we do when we get the sperm is, of course, we measure how much sperm did the guy deliver, because that, of course, depends on how we will treat the sperm and make sure that there's some sperm in there, of course. And then what we do is...
you mean you look with a microscope?
No, we actually check the weight of the sperm to measure how much sperm there's in there. Then once that happens, we put it on a shaker, actually, and we shake the sperm, so we kind of mix it out with all of the liquids in there, so it gets liquefied, you can say. And then after a while, we'll then start processing the sperm. And most of the sperm we have here is what you call washed sperm. You actually wash the sperm. And the reason why you do that is you concentrate the sperm cells that are alive, the motile sperm cells, and then those are the ones you freeze. So all the sperm cells that are dead, seminal plasma that's in the sperm, you wash away that. So thereby you can deliver a more unified product, and at the same time you can also approve more donors that way.
Okay.
So over here, that's where you do the cleaning of the sperm. And the last part of the process is here, where we freeze the sperm in a stepwise procedure where you lower it further and further into liquid nitrogen.
Now, why do you freeze it rather than use it straight away?
Well, the first reason why we freeze this is again all about safety. So by freezing it, you then quarantine the sperm for 6 months, where you then make sure that the patient is not, or the donor is not infected with HIV and other diseases.
Yeah.
The other thing,
so the donor comes back in 6 months and is given a medical check or something.
And tested again. Yeah. And another good thing about it is actually you can't just have some guy walking in from the street and give me $75.
Yes.
It will actually happen from the first time he's here until he receives the final payment for his first donations, and he's released for sale. Before the first straw is sent out here to a patient, it takes 9 months. So we have a long time to actually make sure that this guy, he's not some crazy nutbag that we shouldn't sell.
Yes. Okay, I appreciate that.
I think our patient appreciates that too.
Yes.
And we do too also. That a huge part of this business is safety. There are a lot of pressure on our shoulders. We don't want to pass on diseases to the patients.
Yes.
We don't want to have donors here that could be a potential risk for the patient.
Yes.
So
now, when the women make their choice, do they just simply tell you which one they want, or do they give reasons? I mean, do you have any way of analyzing what the reasons are?
Well, the reason for why they buy the sperm, of course, is of course they have the need. But the reason why they choose a specific donor, there are as many reasons as there are patients.
Yes.
I have studied business for many years, and of course, learn about how you categorize the customers and buying patterns. But one thing that you can say here, it is such a purchase that's so close to you that it becomes so individual, and there's so many different ways of why they choose.
Do they give the reasons when they fill in a form, or
no?
Do they just say, "I want this"?
No, what we do here is we just sell sperm. We don't do any discrimination with patients. Anybody can buy sperm from us. They don't have to tell us anything at all.
Right, and so when you said that there are as many reasons as there are women, you're basing that on your own subjective impression?
No, we're basing, of course, on talking to the patients.
Yes.
And they talk to us, but they only tell us what they want to tell us.
Yeah.
So that it's, of course, a lot of them, it's just because the husband doesn't have any sperm. We'll do a photo match, we'll find the donor that matches the look of a husband, they'll buy the sperm. Very simple. But then, of course, you can go down, and there can be different ways of choosing the donor, and maybe the height, education level, or it can be all kinds of things. It can even be sometimes if the donor has a little handwritten note, they just think this guy, he's a really nice guy.
Yes.
We'll use him.
But you don't do systematic research on the methods of choosing and the way.
No. I don't. it's kind of going down a route where I don't want to go.
You don't want to go there.
No, it's really first. It's not about business. It's more about us just trying to have a great selection of donors and then hope that they can find a donor that they like. And also we don't sell sperm. We tell them about the donors in as objective way as we can, and then they have to make the decision. I don't want to make the decision for them. I'm not selling sand and Sahara. And I'm not selling sperm. We are trying to consult them and tell them about what they're getting into, but they have to make the decision. I think it's such an important decision that they're trying to make that they should make it themselves.
Okay, well, what's around the corner here?
Well, that's where we keep our sperm. Once we're all done with the processing of the sperm, it's gone through the freezing procedure, then we keep the sperm in here. This is our main tank where we keep all the donors. So in here you can have thousands and thousands of straws of sperm that's kept in here. So the sperm is kept in liquid nitrogen. You can see slowly the nitrogen move away, and you keep the sperm in here. And once the sperm is frozen, you can keep it in here as long as you want to, practically. Sperm can stay indefinitely in liquid nitrogen.
Okay.
Even before the donors are donated, we do a very thorough selection process. First, they go through an online questionnaire where we ask questions. There's simply questions we have to ask them that are required by the state and federal regulations. Then they come in here, we test the sperm quality. Some are already rejected and some are approved. Then they do 3 test donations. And after they've done those, they'll then go through an interview with a doctor who has a long questionnaire he has to go through. He does a complete medical check of the donor, family history, and just anything a doctor can really look at to make sure he's healthy. So actually, there's a lot of donors that we don't approve where the regulation doesn't say we can't approve them, but we'll just know, for example, that, well, the donor, his dad has died of diabetes 1 at the age of 39. We can't approve the guy.
And that's a government regulation?
No, there's also
your regulation.
There's actually also things where we, for example, there's types of cancer that can be extremely hereditary. We can't approve that. We don't approve donors like that. So because there are so many diseases that could be out there that you can't write a regulation, and there can be new things to know about, and we didn't need to, as quickly as we could know anything, adjust to make sure that we have healthy donors.
You better put that lid on before they all wake up.
Exactly.
But I was interested that you did say that there are government regulations too.
Well,
so what kind of regulations do they have?
The government regulations are it's about what questions you have to ask the donors. So it's the selection process. Also, as we call it, if you determine if a donor is eligible to donate, it's about then how you test the donors when they donate, and it's about what's called safe tissue bank practices. Make sure that we do it in a safe way, that we run the lab in a safe way.
Yeah.
So just pretty strict, but also I think really good regulations. So besides all the regulations and what the doctor does, a big part of the process is, of course, also, how can you say, kind of screening the donor on a you can say more evaluating, is this a guy that we can actually sell? Because so
it's not just health then?
No, it's not just health. We have to also sometimes, our medical director puts it like that, there can be red lights where you just think that this guy's weird, he's strange.
Yeah.
Because it's he's a creep.
Yes.
Because
we worry that creepiness is hereditary and
it's difficult to know exactly what we're talking about. But you know what? Sometimes red lights just go up and you have a weird feeling and you feel uncomfortable. And we still are on the phone with the patients every day, and we can't lie to the patient and say, well, he's a great guy. He'll win the Nobel Prize.
What sort of men are they? Are they students, young, middle-aged? I mean, what?
Well, the interesting thing is, this is actually our donor campaign that we have used here in New York, that we've used all over the city. And one of the things we talk about in the campaign is, of course, there's money and there's sex, but there's also karma involved in it. And we actually like that people understand that there's karma involved in it. You are helping people, and I think that the campaign has been successful in kind of letting people know that we it's not just to make a quick buck. You're actually helping out here, and I think that the donors actually. That's one of the reasons why they donate. They actually like also that and understands the process. So we've actually had another thing that's interesting. This has also actually ended up we were having a lot of professionals, because you can see from a money perspective, if you're working in an insurance company downtown Manhattan or a bank, you're making enough money.
You don't need $75.
No, you don't. So I've been surprised that the ratio of professionals here are extremely high compared to Denmark, where there's a lot of students. And at the same time, I started talking to why do you donate? Well, they think you can. They actually come help out. They like that part of it. Of course, nobody minds getting $75 for a little iPod money or whatever they use it for. But it's definitely helping out is a big part of it.
I'm a Darwinian biologist,
yes.
And so to me, you could say it's slightly strange. You have to pay them at all. I mean, a naive Darwinian might say they should pay you because the one thing that every animal that's ever born in this world is set up to do, is put into the world to do, is pass on his genes to the next generation.
Yes.
And this is a fantastically efficient, trouble-free, expense-free way of passing on your genes.
Then I can say very simple, then there's something wrong with the theory. Because if we don't pay them, they don't show up.
They don't. That's very interesting.
That's how simple it is.
So there's something wrong with the naive version of the theory then.
Well, first of all, let's just be very practical. The guy comes in here, he masturbates. He has to go all the way here to masturbate to sit in this room. I think the guy would rather sit at home and do it instead of paying me money.
He's trying to pass on his genes.
Yeah, but again, it's not just sending a letter and passing on the genes. You still have to be here. You have to have blood sample tests taken, and it takes quite a while for the whole process. So I just think that maybe the whole passing on the genes is not such.
You don't believe it?
I believe that's you could. Well, my wife and I are having a kid now, so of course there is an urge to have children. But I think that it's kind of like it's almost like the sperm bank. It's they don't see it as a reproductive part of their life.
It is true that is the Darwinian imperative. However, the Darwinian imperative normally plays itself out through normal sexual intercourse between a man and a woman. And so the urge to procreate shows itself in the form of the urge to copulate and the urge to make a home together, make a nest together.
Yeah.
It doesn't show itself in the urge to just find a way using modern technology to pass on your genes. And I mean, it's an instructive point.
No, I agree. And it's sort of like it's even though they know that there's children here, it's just really they know it has nothing to do with them. It's just a little spare part that they're delivering, and then somebody else. It's such a masturbation has nothing to do with reproduction.
Do any of them show any curiosity to try to follow up the children after they're born or anything like that? I'm sure they're not allowed to.
Very few. There are, for example, the donor sibling registry where a patient can register if they've had a child with one specific donor, and then they can also say we would like to talk to the donor. Very few donors participate in that.
They would be allowed to if they wanted to. I mean,
we can't stop them.
No,
it's a service that's outside of our own company. We have nothing to do with.
That really,
the donor.
Really surprises
if the donor has money, he could go in all the newspapers and say, "I am donor this and this and this." If you're a child of mine, I want to talk to you.
You mean I am donor 366 point something or other? You can get in touch with me, and they don't do that.
Well, they don't. So it doesn't seem like the urge is there. And at the same time, also remember we allow two types of donors. We have the anonymous donors, but we have the known donors also. So you can actually be a donor where the child is allowed to know the identity, but very few choose that option.
Yes.
Maybe there's a wish to reproduce, but not have 100 children.
Yes. I think I would be curious to see them. I mean, I'd want to see, do they look like me, or do they are they interested in the same kind of things?
Not that they're telling us again and again. You can see that they're just choosing more to be anonymous and not be part of that.
I think I can understand that because they don't want the responsibility. But
I think I haven't talked to. Of course, people are curious. What happened, and I'm sure they'll think about it down the line, and it's a curious thing to think about. But we've had a sperm bank for 20 years, and it's not like we've been getting calls from previous donors saying, I want to know about your children. It hasn't happened. We haven't had the phone calling all the time. I haven't even heard about anybody making such a request.
What's the maximum number of children that any one of your donors, to your knowledge, has produced?
There are a couple of donors that have had around 100 pregnancies.
Right. All in the New York area?
No. That's on a worldwide basis.
Okay.
That's on a worldwide basis. But the sperm is sold everywhere. So
yeah. What's your view of the future if this catches on and becomes? I'm presuming at present most pregnancies don't come through this.
No, luckily not. No. It's a small business. Luckily.
In 100 years' time, could you foresee a time when the majority of pregnancies are done in this way?
Absolutely not.
I mean, I'm not asking whether you want that to happen.
No, I don't think. I can. When you talk to patients on the phone, they're not calling. Woohoo! We have to call the sperm bank. It's the opposite. It's like they're forced to use us
because they've failed by the normal method.
Or well, there are of course also lesbian and single women.
Yes.
That of course have made decisions that forces them to or have a. If you're lesbian, that's just you need to get sperm from somewhere else.
Yes.
But I still think for them it's I don't think calling the sperm bank is particularly. It's not a fun thing to do.
No. Okay.
We try to make it something that they in the end are happy about the process and they're happy about the donor they choose. But it's not really something that you run down the street. I use the sperm bank.
The other thing.
But I think it does get more and more accepted, and people find out more and more. And I think that the industry is getting a lot more structured and are getting really serious about doing a good job. That I think people will understand it. It's not something that they have to be afraid of, and it's not something they have to be embarrassed of.
No, okay. The other thing that might happen in 100 years is that instead of just giving them a few details of the donors, you give them the entire genome, because at present it's very costly to make to sequence the genome.
Yes.
But in 100 years it'll be cheap and quick.
Yes.
And so you would be able to give them the entire genome.
Yeah.
And so you know exactly have they got a gene for this kind of.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Do you foresee that that'll happen? I mean,
what I've seen so far, just in the few years I've been in the United States, is there is an urge from the patients to know more and more and more. People want to be as secure in their choice as possible. But the problem, of course, is the donor. What is he willing to accept? How much information does he want to give about himself? Yeah. So he
doesn't want his life insurance company to get hold of the information, for example.
No, there's a lot of things about that the more information patient wants and the more they require, and if it becomes the standard, I think it gets more and more difficult to find donors.
Right.
I think that's the problem.
There's a strange aspect, which is that the choice that these women have if they come to a place like this, they have actually far greater choice than they would normally get when choosing a husband.
Oh, definitely. So one of of course, you can say that the things that are developing now, because it's getting a really safe alternative to use a sperm bank, is that all of a sudden you'll see more and more single women using sperm banks. At the same time, of course, what's also happening is that people get older and older, and there are more and more single people in the world. So if the woman is reaching the age of 40, she has to make a decision. If she really wants children, she can't. If the guy on the white horse hasn't shown up.
Yeah. What about married couples where the man is sterile or something? Do you get married couples?
Oh yeah, a lot of those, of course. That's once you reach that decision, it's either, of course, no children, or adoption, or it is to use a sperm bank.
And that's when they try to match the donor.
Yes, we'll do a lot of photo matching, where we'll get photos of the husband and try to match a donor, and it actually works out really well. Of course, since we are right now selling Scandinavian sperm, it's mostly people with North European looks. But as now we're getting more and more, we have now all kinds of donors coming in here in New York. We can then, of course, help a lot more couples, because people try to, again, find a good matching donor. That's what it's all about. Well, of course, the details that are available to single women, I think it's the same. It's the same that goes for all of them. The only difference is that the single woman doesn't have a lesbian partner, or it doesn't have a husband. So all of a sudden, there's nobody else there to make a decision for them. So there was an article in the New York Times where they kind of had the headline was like "Finding Love at the Sperm Bank." I don't know if they're finding love here, but they're definitely finding a donor. But there is some sort of course, you can say that they don't fall in love with the donor, but they really spend a lot of time really picking a donor, and they have a lot of freedom in picking a donor. And I think it's sometimes it's a really a fun process helping them out, and it's great that we can help them find somebody that they can use, and I think it's an interesting perspective also for them to have children this way, because it's not like somebody says, oh, you just went out and find somebody. They actually have a great explanation to tell them what's happened, and I think that gives them also a lot of acceptance at the same time.
A few years ago, a Nobel Prize winner started a very different scheme from yours.
Yeah.
It was he tried to get other Nobel Prize winners to
heard
donate.
about that.
Yes, and this came in for an awful lot of controversy.
Yes,
I mean, he was,
yes.
rubbished all through the press and
Yes.
denounced and everything. What's your feeling about that kind of approach, of actually kind of approaching admired donors?
Well, my approach is really down to earth. Maybe it's because my grandfather was a farmer from the north of Denmark, but I tell patients the story about the Nobel Prize winner and the supermodel who decided to have children, and they get his looks and her brain.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep telling people, you can't design babies. Designer babies has been such a buzzword every time I've had journalists here, designer babies, and they think that there's some sort of people choosing the perfect child, but you can't do that. And the new thing I've started telling people about is, what happened to the Einsteins? Where's Albert children? Where are they now? His wife was a scientist, and he was one of the smartest people of
You want to be careful though, because otherwise you'll talk your women out of even bothering to try. I mean, if you say,
because they want to have children.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell the idea.
Talk them out of bothering to look at the checklist and
well, I think
choose.
it's great. I think it's crazy that in the United States you see a more and more demand for information about the donors, and that the sperm banks are going on with it. I think baby pictures, I tell the patients, it's not going to tell you anything about your child, but that's what you forget.
So you think they're wasting their time?
No, because there's two things to it. One thing is trying to select a donor. The other thing is you have a woman who are told by her doctor, you got to find a sperm bank, you got to find a donor. She's sitting there, okay, what then? Well, go home, go to the computer. All of a sudden you're sitting on a computer trying to pick a donor. I mean, you want to make sure that you're not picking some sort of crazy guy. So the baby picture is a way for them to just feel happy about the decision they make. It's more about just security than about picking the perfect donor.
But you said that it works choosing a donor who resembles the husband.
Yes.
So that means you're not saying that
No.
it doesn't work at all.
Well, it works in the way that you can, of course, you can improve the likelihood. Instead of just picking a random donor, by picking one that shares the height and the weight and the build, you have a higher likelihood, of course, of getting a child that will resemble you.
But that's all that the Nobel Prize winner wanted to do. He wasn't guaranteeing you a genius.
No.
He was just saying you improve the likelihood.
Yeah.
And would you deny that?
I'm sure there is an improved likelihood. I'm not a geneticist, but I'm sure, of course, if you use a smart donor, I would think there is a higher likelihood. But that's just part of the picture. What happens? What happens if he's a smart man but he's a psychopath?
Oh, sure, yes.
No, thank
that
you.
That one probably was. By the way.
What happens? And then there's for some people looks are very important. Some people that if you can play an instrument is important. That there's so many things that goes into it than just looks or intelligence. Mm-hmm. Like we actually the one of the donors that have been really popular is actually the nicest guy.
And
I don't know how you put that in a formal, but he's the nicest guy.
Yes.
He's not the smartest guy.
Yeah.
He's not the best looking guy.
So how do they know? How do they know he's the nicest guy?
He's actually written a really good extended profile about himself. So I've actually met the guy. That I can tell you the profile actually checks out. He is a really nice guy, and you read it. You can see he's a nice guy, and it comes for some reason. He can just make it come. It comes across when you read his profile and you read the staff impression we put about it. He's a super nice guy. And I think that's like something that's the biggest kind of like where I had no idea that was going to happen, and that kind of makes me happy that the nicest guy gets picked.
Me too. Yeah, quite agree.
We have a chance.
Yes. Could we have a look at some of the profiles?
Oh, definitely. Let's just find. I could find one of the donors and one of the profiles. I think I have one right here. Yeah. So here's the profile. This is what the patient can look at. They can download it from the internet. They can read all kinds of things about him. From just general characteristics, shoe size, and allergies, and skin tone, if he tans easily, how he placed in school, what languages he speaks. If he's been in the military, I don't know if there's military-induced sperm, and if
favorite pet dog.
Favorite pet. If he's a smoker,
he likes James Bond.
He likes the Aston Martin. He likes jazz music, and just where he's traveled, what countries he's visited,
So he's Danish.
Yeah, he's Danish. This guy's Danish. Yeah, that's one of our Danish donors. You can see his family history, mother and father, what they did, if he has any sisters and brothers. One of the interesting things also that this donor have is he actually has a long handwritten profile. So it actually gets really personal.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it really, of course, some people believe a lot in handwritten profile, but I think it actually, again, for the women, I think it's another reason that it really just makes them understand that this is it's not some dude.
Yeah, he says, finally, I wish you good luck and hope no matter if you choose my donation or not, that you will have a good experience. That's very nice.
Yeah, it is very nice.
His reason for becoming a donor, he gives two reasons. First, an easy way to make some money. He needed some money to finance his studying. And secondly, he wants to help other people, which is very positive, gives me personal pleasure and satisfaction.
Yeah.
And down the bottom, he says, most important, I hope that you will have the most wonderful little boy or girl.
Great. Yes. I actually, from learning the donors here too, they really mean that. They of course, there's no secret about them liking that they get paid.
Yes.
But they really like that we help them out too. And another thing also I think they like too, and I think that comes a little bit back to the reproduction. But we didn't finish that thing, and I haven't really talked to them about it. But one of the interesting things is that when you tell them they have good sperm quality, they get really happy. They like to hear that. I don't know if it's just because they think they're more of a man, or they actually know that I can actually really reproduce if I choose to.
I think people like being good at anything, don't they?
Yes,
they like to have quick reflexes.
Yes.
They like to be good drivers. They like, good sperm is just another one.
Yeah. I think again it's very different from how they look at it. There are some that make a really quick decision, and the personal information doesn't mean so much to them. I think some also think it's ridiculous that they know that it doesn't matter if he likes James Bond. It has nothing to do with it. But they're definitely a lot of them also that take it extremely serious, and they spend hours and hours reading the profiles.
Yeah, because they think it might affect the kind of child they get. They may think that it affected. When you ask them and you say, "Do you really think it matters?" They'll kind of like, I'm not sure, but might as well.
It might as well
exercise the choice, given that I've got it.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's fine. And might as well, now we have the information online, and might as well go through it.
Yeah. Do you get the impression that they're choosing the sort of man that they would fancy if they were looking for a man, as opposed to just looking for sperm?
Well, that I haven't really. I think that's too personal of a question.
You wouldn't ask them that.
We don't ask them that. We don't have to ask them it, and I think it's just going way too close to the patient.
But they do choose the nicest guy. That's your impression.
It was in the beginning. Now that we have supplied more information about the donors, we're actually spreading out more of the sales. But in really when if the core was only the extended profile they could read, they really end up, even though we told them this guy is really. We have other donors that this guy tremendously good looking. The ladies in the staff say this guy he's a Brad Pitt, but they still didn't choose him. So and they definitely like the nicest guy to choose that guy.
Well, isn't that encouraging?
It is encouraging. Yeah. And I also think it's encouraging also to know for the donors when we get to walk through the door. They don't have to be Superman when they walk through the door. Mm-hmm. They just have to be healthy, and they have to have good sperm quality. Those are really, and then of course be a nice guy. Mm-hmm. And luckily the donors that we've had here in New York are really nice guys. I like to talk to them and just make sure they are nice guys too, and that's what it turns out.
Yeah. Do you get requests for donors from way off in another part of the world sometimes?
Well, we do sell to other countries, but in fact it's mostly, or it is just women that has traveled and lived in other countries. We don't get strange requests from a woman in Africa who wants to have a Danish donor. We haven't really seen that. I've recently talked to a patient about it, and I think it's more about that you don't want to put your parenthood in question. So you want to try. That's why you try to find a donor that matches who you are.
Yes.
And at the same time, I also think that people revert to the mean. We want to look like our neighbors, most of us. we don't want to be like Michael Jackson and be, have designer babies. We want to look like the next guy.
Last night we went and interviewed 3 women who had done this kind of thing. I think as it happened, they hadn't been to yours, but they'd been to others. And it was sort of interesting. There was one who was pregnant. She is now pregnant, in fact, with a chosen donor.
Okay.
Another one had been trying and so far failed, and she talked the most and told us, what she was looking for.
Yes. This is the donor rooms. I asked him if he wanted to give it a try, but you're still welcome to give it a try. And actually down here at the bottom, what I also told the other guy, the reason why we have a big bench down here is actually we also have people that go through cancer therapy. So the women that you talked to yesterday, did they actually confirm what I also told you?
Yes, very much so.
That's always good.
It was very similar.
Okay.
They all of them said that they had wanted to have children. Talked to her about whether she'd given the mother the same vetting as she'd given the father. They'd all of them, looked down the checklist and chosen the father. And in her case, she'd done the same thing for the mother.
Yeah.
She was the one. She was the only one who actually had a child, and she was very keen on children.
I think the interesting thing is about most of the ones we of course have talked to, all of them that we talked to that does embryos, of course also call here because they get sperm. So they're actually almost adopting a child because it's not their egg and it's not their sperm. Mm. But of course, for the woman to carry the child is extremely important. It can be both, of course. Important for her feeling as a woman, and I also think for some reason it's almost like a status symbol to walk around with the belly, especially in some places more than others. But the pregnancy is just the urge to reproduce, as you talked about earlier, is extremely strong. They're so keen on what they're doing that if I told them that this is the Nobel Prize winner, I can guarantee you blah blah blah, they'll fall for it. So you got to really make sure that people that work in here and talk to the patients do not do that. I think you almost have the complete sperm bank story. I said what I always tell people too, and that's a good thing about it. It's luckily a small business. Most people are able to conceive on their own. With all the modern technology that exists nowadays, it's
IVF and things like that.
IVF, it's just the opportunities are tremendous. Women with their sperm quality is just so poor that even with IVF, you can't do anything about it. Yeah. And then, of course, again, that whole new, with definitely more and more lesbians are using the opportunity as a sperm bank, and there's also a tremendous, I think, increase in the acceptance of that part of it. And I don't know what Darwin thinks about that.
I think he'd have been fascinated.
I think he would be too.
Yeah.
Well, we actually going to a birthday party on Sunday with a lesbian couple that had a child that she's now 2 years old.
Uh-huh.
So it's going to be, and there's going to be another mother there who also has a child with the same donor. So it's going to be really fascinating to meet them and just see what the hell is going on.
The donor's not going to be there.
No, he's not going to be there. No. He is actually. I actually talked to the donor. I know who he is and where he donates. But
I'm quite intrigued as a Darwinian. Darwin had, in addition to the theory of natural selection, he had the theory of sexual selection. That's the theory of the peacock's tail. Why are peacocks so beautiful? It's not to survive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's to reproduce.
This is more like his characteristics, which is very important to the customers. Yes. Really, definitely the things that they look at first. And of course, even though it's interesting that it does list if he's if he scored high in his academics, but and we never really get any questions about it. And you can also say this. It's also my personal point of view that I don't think it matters that much. So we also try to we have our point of view of how we think, and I'm sure that some of the other sperm banks put more emphasis on education. I know one sperm bank that I think they say that all their applicants have a college degree. And I of course think it's. I think you were talking about how he likes James Bond, and his Aston Martin, whatever he drives nowadays. Last time it was a Mondeo. He's going down. He's trying to eat healthy as possible. I wonder that doesn't necessarily get healthy sperm. He's not a smoker. He rides a bike. Not that many rides bikes over here. So strong sides and weak sides. So, and then you can see his family information. This is something that I think people really also look into, more also just to make sure that nobody died at the age of 46.
Yes.
which I can understand. I think health is definitely the biggest concern when people call it more. When they understand that they're healthy, that really makes a big difference. And then, of course, the biggest part of it, interesting thing about this donor is, of course, if we saw his extended
personal statement,
personal statement, which I really like too. It's kind of like it again helps them. It's all about also feel secure and that there's actually a man behind this. It's not just some robot who put out these random information about the guy. It's actually somebody who's written something.
Well, he had various reasons for being a donor. He found it a good way to make money, and he thought it gave him the possibility to help other people, which is very positive and gives me personal pleasure. He says, finally, I wish you good luck and hope no matter if you choose my donation or not, that you will have a good experience, even though you might find this procedure a little strange. But most important, I hope that you will have the most wonderful little boy or girl, which is very nice. Well, thank you very much. That's been really interesting.
Really a pleasure to meet you. So this way out, please.
Right.
I will let me open the door for you here. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Positive eugenics is a very controversial subject. That's to say, choosing, in this case, a sperm donor on the basis of the kind of qualities you positively want your child to have. In this sperm bank, we have plenty of choosing against negative qualities, weeding out of disease. But in addition, the women are able to positively choose particular qualities that they want to have in the way of a donor, presumably on the supposition that there's some likelihood that those qualities will show up in the child. Klaus himself seemed a bit skeptical about that, but there's presumably going to be some sort of statistical effect. The reason why positive eugenics is so controversial is, I think, perhaps a lot to do with Hitler. That Hitler is really the only person who, in a very big way, tried to implement a policy of positive eugenics in a compulsory kind of way. I mean, in a government regulated, not more than regulated, sponsored kind of way. And that, of course, is highly distasteful. But positive eugenics, where it's a matter of individual choice, is perhaps less obnoxious, and perhaps it's time we started at least talking about it seriously and not hiding it away as something taboo that we're not even allowed to discuss.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can show some support by subscribing to the podcast, sharing it with your friends, and leaving a review.